Hello there! My favorite director is Charlie Chaplin. He was funny, but also had a lot of interesting things to say about society, and anybody who has read his fantastic autobiography knows he led a very fascinating life. Yes, it's a classic rags to riches story, but one filled with a lot of turmoil and controversy, even as he entertained and brought joy to the masses. In 1992, Richard Attenborough directed a biopic on his life, which I think does a great job at summarizing his life and also being very inspiring, despite a couple of flaws here and there. The first thing that stands out is Robert Downey Jr.'s performance. He has the difficult task of not only playing Charlie Chaplin, but his beloved creation, the Little Tramp. This is beautifully conveyed in the opening credits, as he is taking the costume and makeup off and revealing the real Chaplin underneath. Downey embodies the role perfectly, portraying this man intent on making people laugh, even when going through many ordeals off the camera. When playing the tramp, he gets the movements and mannerisms down perfectly, and it's almost like watching the tramp resurrected in color. Usually, when an actor plays a real-life screen persona, they just refilm the scenes, but in the case of Chaplin, Downey is so perfect that the film can use the real movies, and it's seamless. When looking into the behind-the-scenes details of his movies, the film does a nice job of showing his inspirations, particularly in regards to remembering his time as a child in England's slums. Any fan of Chaplin's work will immediately recognize the blind flower girl who would later become a major character in City Lights. The sad sequence where Charlie and his half-brother Sidney are running away from child services is, of course, an ode to a similar scene in The Kid, where the authorities come to take away the title character. And the movie goes into great detail on what might have led to his decision to mock a worldwide threat with the great dictator, including one of Chaplin's greatest quotes. In detailing his life, the film also delves into his multiple controversial relationships with younger women, as well as going into why these might have materialized. Some of the sweetest moments come from Chaplin's relationship with a dancer named Hetty Kelly, when they were in their late teens. After they parted ways, he spent his entire life trying to find somebody who came close to matching her, and even provided the inspiration behind many of his screen heroines. For every Paulette Goddard and Enda Purviance who Chaplin had good, if troublesome, relationships with, there was somebody who mainly took advantage of his fame and fortune, and the film portrays that rather well. In a great casting choice, Moira Kelly plays both Hetty Kelly and Chaplin's last wife, Una O'Neill. In addition to playing both parts nicely, this subtly shows what he saw in her and why this relationship, unlike the others, worked, and why they stayed together until the end. Chaplin's relationships with other people in his life are also well explored. Douglas Fairbanks was his closest friend in Hollywood, and there's definitely a sense of their long history together, and how, even when Fairbanks' life started falling apart after his divorce from Mary Pickford, Chaplin was there by his side. There's both contention and closeness in Chaplin's relationship with Sidney. While Charlie was headstrong about elements like what he wanted to satirize or wanting to keep making silent films, Sidney wanted to shy away from those elements. However, there's a part of him that knows Charlie has his own ideals, and he will stick by them, regardless of if they might get him into trouble. In an interesting bit of casting, Geraldine Chaplin plays her own grandmother, and shows her withering away and dealing with the sad conditions in which she would raise her children. You really get the sense of Charlie dealing with this and trying as hard as he can to help his mother. Now, being a movie based on a real person's entire life, and at about 2 hours and 20 minutes, there's only so much it can depict, and it does have a number of historical inaccuracies. However, it does poke fun at this ideal when we find out how Chaplin got the inspiration for the Little Tramp's iconic look. It's that sense of magic that helps elevate the movie for me, and seeing the changing tides of Hollywood over the years, and him trying to deal with forces like the revival of talkies and the McCarthy communist witch hunt. Now, if there was a slight flaw with Chaplin, it's how it could have tackled more about the movies he made. It does a nice job of showing how his real life inspired what happened on screen, but there are some classics that are left on the wayside. It's understandable why The Circus is not mentioned, as Chaplin himself had a terrible time making it, and he did not even mention it in his autobiography, though I think it's one of his best films. However, The Gold Rush was his biggest commercial hit, and the film Chaplin himself said would be the one he would be most remembered for, and yet it's touched on for maybe a minute. Though there is a great scene where he does the dancing rolls routine in front of J. Edgar Hoover's face. The Kid, which was very personal to him, is also barely looked at. And the Pavilions, his longest screen co-star, is given a funny meet-cute scene with Chaplin, and we see them making The Immigrant together, and we never see her again. There's a necessary bridging subplot where Chaplin is working on his autobiography with his editor, shot on Chaplin's actual estate in Switzerland. Screen time they could have devoted to other parts of the story. Otherwise, those are just little gripes. Apparently, Richard Attenborough made a 4-hour cut of Chaplin, and his life is certainly massive and pivotal enough that I wouldn't mind seeing that cut one day, or somebody should at least make a miniseries. Nonetheless, whether it be Robert Downey Jr.'s fantastic spot-on performance, the depiction of classic Hollywood, its inspiring story, and genuine warmth among the hardships that he faced, Chaplin is a great biopic on a classic filmmaking giant. See you next time.